So let's talk about something that's at the very heart of the financial markets, investing versus gambling. It's an incredibly fine line, and today we're going to figure out exactly where it is. I want you to think about this for a second. You've just closed a position, you see that green number, and you get that rush. But was that feeling because you made a calculated, smart move, or was it just the thrill of a winning bet? It's a really important question to ask yourself.
And that's really the core of the problem, isn't it? The line between a strategic trade and a total gamble can get super blurry. A lot of people, and I mean a lot, cross it without even knowing it. They fall into this trap where they think they're being savvy investors, but really, they're just rolling the dice.
Okay, first things first. To really get a handle on this, let's map out the whole landscape. We need to understand these three different activities: investing, trading, and gambling.
Now here's what's so wild. When you get down to the human element, all of these things feel almost exactly the same. That heart-pounding thrill when you win, that pit in your stomach when you're about to lose. Our brains react in such similar ways, and that's precisely why it's so easy to get them confused.
So, to cut through all that emotional noise, let's just establish some ground rules. Let's get some clear, solid definitions for what these words actually mean. First up, we've got investing. This is the classic, the long game. You're buying an asset, say a stock or some property, because you believe in its fundamental value. You're expecting it to grow in worth over a long period of time. The key phrase here is long-term. Next, there's trading. Now, this is a whole different ballgame. It's much, much faster. A trader isn't necessarily worried about where a company will be in 10 years. They're focused on short-term price swings, trying to make a profit over hours, days, or maybe a few weeks.
And finally, gambling. This one's pretty straightforward, right? You're placing a bet on an event with a completely random outcome. Think of a roulette wheel. The most important part? Over time, the odds are mathematically stacked against you. The house always, always has an edge.
Okay, so if the definitions are so black and white, why on earth do people get them so mixed up? Well, the answer, it's all in our heads. Let's dig into the psychology, these hidden biases that can turn a disciplined trader into a hopeful gambler.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. This quote from Money Hub founder Christopher Walsh tells a real story. It's about someone who crossed that line, and what started as trading just morphed into a gambling addiction disguised as an investment activity. It had devastating, real-world consequences on his entire life. We all want to believe we're logical, rational people, especially when it comes to our money, right? We look at charts, we read the reports, we try to make smart decisions. But the truth is, emotion and rationality are always lurking, just waiting to seep into our choices, especially when things get stressful. And this slide right here breaks down the exact mental traps we all fall into. You've got the gambler's fallacy, that feeling of I've lost 4 times in a row, the next one has to be a winner. Then there's the opposite, the hot hand bias. I'm on fire, I literally can't lose. Or the sunk cost fallacy, where you keep pouring money into a bad trade just because you've already lost so much. And of course, the bandwagon bias, jumping into something just because everyone on social media is. These are the telltale signs of gambling, not trading.
All right, so we've seen the mental minefield. Now let's get super practical. Let's draw some bright, unmissable lines between these things.
This table makes it crystal clear. Look at predictability. With trading, you can use analysis to give yourself an edge. With gambling, the outcome is totally random. Then there's regulation. Trading is watched over by financial regulators, while gambling is often a tightly controlled monopoly. And the outcome? A trade has a variable profit or loss. A gamble is usually all or nothing. Finally, transparency. Trading platforms are verifiable. Gambling is often opaque, designed with that hidden house edge. And here's another really important difference. Trading, with all its risks, actually serves a vital purpose in our economy. It provides liquidity, it helps make markets efficient, it's a key part of how our whole financial system works. Gambling, on the other hand, well, it's a vice. It doesn't really create any economic value. So, if our brains are wired to trip us up, and the emotional rush feels exactly the same, what's our ultimate defense? What's the one thing that can protect us? It all comes down to a single word: strategy.
Now, listen up, because this is probably the most important thing you'll hear today. If you are opening a position without knowing exactly when or why you plan to close it, you're not trading. You're gambling, period. Okay, so how do you actually build that strategy? It's not as complicated as you might think. Just follow this checklist. 1. Write down what you're trying to do. 2. Set crystal clear rules for why you'll enter a position. 3, and this is just as critical, define your rules for when you will get out, for both a win and a loss. And 4, this is the hard part, you have to stick to those rules no matter what your gut is screaming at you.
So at the end of the day, here's the bottom line. You can gamble on the stock market and you can trade strategically on a sporting event. The platform doesn't matter. The asset doesn't matter. The number one difference isn't the market, it's your mindset.
And that brings us right to the final question, the one I want you to walk away with. The next time you're about to put on a trade, just stop and ask yourself this first. So, what's my strategy? If you don't have a clear answer, you might want to take your hand off the mouse.
And finally, and this is really important, if any of this today felt a little too real, a little too familiar, and you're worried that your trading might be turning into something more serious, please know that help is available. There are some fantastic organizations out there, and reaching out to them is a true sign of strength. Thanks for tuning in.